October 2nd, 2006, at 11:07 a.m. Who knows what happened on this date at this time? Does anyone happen to know? October 2nd, 2006? No? There's no, what?
The plane crash?
I don't think that was the day. There's no catchy date like 9/11 or Remember the 5th of November. Does anyone know who Charles Roberts is? Do you remember the name?
He's the missionary.
No. Charles Roberts shot 10 Amish schoolgirls in a one-room schoolhouse before committing suicide on October 2nd, 2006. Most of the girls were shot execution style on the back of the head. The 5 girls who died were ages 7, 8, 12, and 13. 5 of the girls who survived have been able to return to a fairly normal lives, except for 6-year-old Rosanna, now 10 or 11, whose brain injuries have restricted her to a wheelchair and she can no longer walk or talk. There is a reason for this story, though, because of the response of the Amish community, especially the immediate families of these victims. 6 hours after the shooting, Amish men and women from the Amish community went to visit Marie Roberts, the widow of Charles Roberts, who had been in a Bible study that morning and came home to read a suicide note from her husband. Another group went to Charles Roberts' parents' home to visit with them. In both settings, gracious words of forgiveness and support were offered. The Amish even set up a charitable fund for Marie to help her and her children. And 30 members of the Amish community attended her husband's funeral. The group of 30 saw in their minds a grieving widow and parents, so before leaving, they hugged them. Other gracious acts of kindness involved meals and flowers, including 2 months later, at Christmas time, children from an Amish school went to Marie's home to sing Christmas carols. Within a week of the shooting, approximately 2,400 media stories circled the globe, not on the shooting, but on the choice to forgive. So what can make someone have that kind of power to forgive after experiencing such a terrible, heart-wrenching tragedy? What could give them that kind of power? We know the Bible tells us to forgive others. We know the Golden Rule tells us to do unto others as we would have them do unto ourselves. But those are just words, aren't they? When it really comes down to it, how do you really act when someone betrays you, when someone comes after you, when someone hurts you? How do you act? What could give someone the strength to forgive the worst tragedy that is imaginable to them? Words just create a dry shell of faith that would blow away with the slightest breeze. The Amish community withstood a hurricane. So there must be something behind those words to give and to forgive and to repent. There are 2 words for what can give such amazing power. The kind of power that is capable of forgiving. It's the most incredible power found in the entire universe can be summed up in 2 words. God's love. Only His love. His, bear with me now, His agape love. In the Greek language, there are 3 different words for love. There's phileo, which is brotherly love. There's another one for the kind of love that only a man and wife can enjoy. And then there's agape love, which is unconditional. His unconditional love is what saves us. It's because of His unconditional love that He created us in His image, that He breathed life into us, that He gave us the choice of free will, that He gave man woman and woman man. that he spared our ancestors, saved them, blessed them, and prospered them. It is because of that agape, that unconditional love, that he continued to forgive our ancestors. And it is because of that unconditional love that he sacrificed his only son. We hear that so often, that he sacrificed his only begotten son, that he gave his son. It almost loses its effect. It almost loses the kind of power because we say it so much. It's the same as good morning. It's the same as how are you doing? It's no longer good morning. It's no longer how are you doing? How is your day going? How are you feeling? It's another word for hi. Another word for I'm not really interested in how you are doing. I'm just saying a greeting. He gave his only son. Think about being asked to sacrifice your brother, your son, your daughter, your parent, whoever is closest to you. Yet he gave freely. And more than he gave freely, Jesus decided to sacrifice himself. And it is because of God's unconditional love that he allowed it and he accepted it in our stead. In other sermons here, I've asked you to wait on God, to understand that your timing is not his timing. I've asked you to invest your trust in him, to know that he has a perfect plan for you, that he knows what is best for you. And today, I'm asking you to do something that will be the most rewarding for both you and for him. I'm asking you to love him. Love, and not the emotional, physical feeling of the puppy love, of the when the couple first meets and they start dating. Not that emotional love. Love, as C.S. Lewis described it, as a continuing urge to strive for that person's best interest. It's love as an action, not just a feeling. If we love God, we will allow him to work in our lives. His love will drive us, hold us together, give us strength, give us hope, and give us forgiveness, as well as the strength to forgive. Nothing in the universe is as powerful as his love. It is his love of truth and righteousness that spares the just. It is his love of truth and righteousness that creates the barrier between those filled with sin and him, that makes it so people who are unjust cannot be in his presence. Yet it is his love of us that he forgave us of this trespass. The Amish lost their most precious earthly gift that was given to them, their daughters, their precious daughters. Yet they not only forgave the family, they loved them because they had the power and they wielded the power of God's love. Love, now this is a little mathematical equation. Love is mentioned 310 times in the Bible. There are, in the New International Version, 1,395 pages in the Bible. That means in the entire Bible, if you spread it out evenly, love is mentioned every 4.5 pages. Now, if we look at the New Testament alone, it has 251 pages, and love is mentioned 179 times. Divided that between the New Testament completely, it's every 1.5 pages. Do you think there's a message that it's trying to get across? Every 1.5 pages, it is speaking about love. Love is God. God is love. My name is Joshua Sheriff, and I have been called by God to be a pastor and an officer in the Salvation Army. Both of my parents were pastors for almost 20 years, and my mom has just completed her 27th year in the Salvation Army. I feel the closest to God when I am preparing for a sermon because I have one main idea in my mind: to bring you closer to him. That is what I always pray for, that my words would bring you closer to him. If I could do that by getting up here and doing push-ups or jumping jacks, I would be the strongest person that I could possibly be. I want to be the best speaker that I can be. I'm currently enrolled in college, and I've already taken Bible, I've already taken apologetics, I've already taken Christian worldviews, I've taken theology, I'm taking communications, public speaking. I'm taking everything I can to help better convey the message to you, because I love you, each and one of you. I love you as much as I am humanly possible. But more than I am possible, I am trying to love you as God loves you. And I cannot do that. Only He can love you the way He does. And it is such a powerful, commanding, and demanding love. The purpose of this sermon today is to try to get you to love Him as much as you can. To try to get you to love Him more than you ever thought possible. I want you to not only have that love for Him, I want you to go out and show other people that love. Today, I'm going to show you society's view on God, why they see this, how His love actually is, and how we can show people how He actually is. In USA Today, they ran an article on how society viewed God. They came up with 4 distinct groups. There is the authoritative God, which makes up 28%, who is viewed by Americans as a God who punishes the corrupt and blesses the righteous. They came up with the benevolent God, which makes up 22%, who is viewed as a God who is a force for good, who cares for all people, weeps at all conflicts, and will comfort all. They have the critical God, who is viewed by Americans as a God who keeps His eye on this world, but delivers justice in the next. And we have the distant God, which is 24%, who is viewed by Americans as a God who spun up the universe and left it to fend for itself. Benjamin Franklin once wrote that he could not imagine a supremely perfect God cares a whit for such an inconsiderable nothing as man. Benjamin Franklin. The New York Times also did a public piece on the growing atheist wing, who not only believes that God doesn't exist, they have launched a vindictive campaign against him and his followers. And their entire idea of why God doesn't exist, and their entire idea of why we are fools for believing this, is because amputees are not growing their legs back, are not growing their limbs back. They believe that, according to an unbiased observer, if God healed people the way that He is supposedly healing others with cancer and with sicknesses and ailments, that He would heal those with severed limbs. That to an unbiased observer, then, He is singling out those who have losses of limbs. That He is singling out paraplegics and quadriplegics. And they have launched a campaign to bring this to people. They put it on billboards. They show it on TV advertisements. They put it on the radio. Why would someone try to not only take away your view of God, but to ruin it, to cast such terrible and evil visions of a good and caring God? Why does society see this way? Why do they see this? The enemy is the craftiest enemy that we can ever and even can't imagine. He has been work against creation since he has been cast out of heaven. The enemy doesn't need to convince all of us that God is or isn't something. He simply desires to muddy the waters, to break up our view of God. So we argue amongst ourselves. So we don't have a clear and precise image of who He is and what His love is for us. There are different reasons that society can have this kind of a view on God. There are their experience with disasters, poverty, accidents, and death. There's the result of the infection of sin on the world. And there is how much influence the enemy has had on them. The enemy has direct influence on us.